quorum over here. So this is one of the first DAMA India members uh, huddle, you can say, and we're going to touch upon one of the very critical topics that is always talked about, and wherein most of the data governance discussions start from, and those are basically addressing the business problems targeting towards the data quality. And we have Rebel with us. He's going to share his experiences on how he has tackled data quality in his organization, and then this is something that we're going to talk about in the next 20-30 minutes. uh, and just as a foundation, I mean, if you have any questions, then you can post them in the chat forum, and then we'll address it either during the session itself, or we'll add it at the end. So, Rebel, the stage is all yours. You can take it forward from here.
Okay. Good morning, all. First thing is, are you able to see the screen I have just shared? Are you able to see my screen, Hemant?
Rebel,
Yes.
yes, we're able to see your screen, but it's blank right now.
Let me do one thing. Please let me know when you are able to see.
Yes, we can see the famous Dama wheel and the data
Yeah.
quality function being highlighted. Great.
Great. Good morning, everyone, in this session. Myself, Rabiul Khan. I'm just giving you a little background of my uh, past involvement and experience. So I have 16 years of experience in IT industry with different data domains. I started my career as a PL SQL developer, right? And then moved to data integration, data modeling, data architecture. So currently my role is data architect, and I worked with various clients. Let's say it's a retail retail clients, the infrastructure asset management organizations, like energy organizations. So various type of clients I have worked. And as my journey, I found that the data quality, we know about the data quality, we talks about data quality, but I feel that we need to understand more accurately what are the different things, how we can measure our data, and how we can go for the improvement. Okay. So I'm just starting a few slides, but uh, it's all about in the the measuring the data quality and the improvement plan. Okay. So the very first thing, if I provide some facts of the recent research study through some different organizations, right? So what is how impacts is the data quality? Like experience mentioned that 55% business leaders can't make confident decisions using the data they collect. Even in another study, they found that 15 to 25% of the revenue goes for the bad data, right? And another Forrester mentioned that 74% of business aim to be data driven, but only 29% succeed. So while it is important in the background of, while any type of organization, it's a middle level to large organizations, we are going to the data driven. So it is very important that what is we are expecting and what we are actually achieving in a nutshell. Now, what is the data quality, right? So the data quality is it's a characteristics, right, to meet or exceed the business expectations.
Rebel, could you do us a favor? If you could put it in a slide mode, I think that will be much more visible for us. Right now, it's the slides
Okay.
are within the presentation. So if you could put it in a slide mode, that will be nice. Yeah, great. Thanks so
Okay.
much.
Yeah. So the quality is a characteristics, and our Dr. Peter I can is very precisely mention that it's a fit for a purpose and meets the requirements of authors, users, and administrators. So I hope that is the best definition of the data quality. as of now. Now, why data quality is an important factor for any data-driven organization? So, to support smooth functioning of business solutions, and good data allows organizations to establish baselines or benchmarks, right? And organization can enhance data integrity to get the most form of the informational assets. Now, what is the impact of the data quality in different industry? So, couple of example we can see that, like financial service industry, how it impacting, right? So the risk management and the regulatory compliance is badly hit due to bad quality of data or customer data, you can say. Even in the retail industry, so there are a lot of impact, like delayed deliveries, no successful promotional campaigns, poor customer service, ineffective inventory management. So that is the impact, but the root cause obviously are there. So just I'm giving one example that yesterday we had a talk with our colleagues, and he was giving us simple and very precise information that we talks about lot things about the data quality, but if we go to the reach to the sales guy, they are simply saying that we do not have the customer mobile number, contact number, the missing address. So these are the pain points, right? So that those were not properly captured, or maybe the mobile number is captured but it's incorrect. So those are the simple uh, outcome from the sales teams insights. So these are the impacting the different industry. Even for healthcare industry, if we talks about the low quality data, it hits patient frustration, mistreatment, decrease in efficiency, poor and ineffective policy decisions. Okay. So now we will talk about some data quality dimensions. So what are those? Those are basically a measurable feature of characteristic of data, and it provides a basis for measurable rules. It provides a vocabulary for defining data quality requirements. Okay. Now, there are a lot of things. We know the main data quality dimensions, but still, while we work in any large project for the data quality area, still sometimes we confused or sometimes we struggle that how and where to start, how to measure, what does it mean by actual the meaning of those dimensions. Okay. So I'm going to open one Excel sheet. So this is I agree that this is a descriptive information, but still very useful while I worked in a large project, right? So here I have provided, so the each dimension means what and how we can measure those. What will be the measuring value? So there are a couple of dimensions we have, like completeness, conformance, timeliness, like resolution, consistency, accuracy, fidelity, verifiability, and traceability. So largely, if we can group those. So these there are few inherent quality. So these are basically the inherent quality, and there are some data management quality. So like verifiability and traceability, and even this integrity is another dimension, and there are some granular information are there. So I'm going one by one to describe descriptive way, so just to go through that, understanding what it means, right? So the completeness is basically means what is meant by completeness or any data, right? Means what we need is that I am getting, right? So that means that suppose in example that first system is capturing the first name and last name, although the middle name is optional, but if at least we are getting that first name and last name, then we can say that information is complete, that name information is complete, right? So now in the integrity, there are a couple of granular dimensions type, that is data type, valid length, valid values, range, measure. So is that data conform to the specified data type? Is the data conform to a valid length? Like in India, if I give an example, that postal code is 6 characters. So the postal code must be 6 characters. So it's a valid length, right? So we cannot accept more than or less than of 6 character of postal code. Now the valid values, like a customer account status is active, pending, and closed. So those are the valid values only we will accept, or we will move forward with this. The valid range, the unit of measure, dependencies. So these are integrity, okay, and we need it. But how we are measuring that value? Some dimensions we can measure, like percentage. Some dimension we can put as yes, no. Okay. Now in the in the conformance, outside of integrity, there are another two important dimensions: format and uniqueness. So format, we know is that if the data is defined format or specified format. But uniqueness is that single instance unity is unique, means there is no ambiguity for that entity, right? We can uniquely identify that entity. Again, another important dimension is timeliness. So it is the information available when we need it. Right? So even an example I can give, that product inventory information in every second we need. So that means the timeliness is every second, each second. And again, the sales information is required in every month. So if we are getting on sales information in each month, then we can say that my data is timely. Okay. Now I am going to the another category, that is credibility. So there are four important dimensions: resolution, consistency, accuracy, and fidelity. So resolution is basically the degree of precision the data is required, right? And precision refers to the closeness of two or more measurement. So like if I am measuring my data with a sample 50-gram standard, but I am getting values like, very close to 50, like 47, 47.5, 47.6, 47.5. So these are the closed value to each other. So then we can say that my data is precise. So that should be a percentage. Or not applicable means every attributes we may not measure the resolution. Okay. And now if I go to the other example, that accuracy. So sometimes we may confuse with the resolution and accuracy. So resolution is basically the closeness of two or more measurement to each other, but accuracy is how it is close to the true value, right? So in the same example of 50-gram standard sample, if I am getting the value 49.8, 50.5, and 51.0 as an example, then I can say that my data is accurate. If it is not 100%, at least 90%, 95% accurate. Okay. Now the consistency. That to what degree must the data be consistent, right? So consistency is that data across all systems reflects the same information and sync with each other. So it should not be a similar case like if an HR system, HRMS is saying that employee does not work now, but payroll department says the active for the payment, right? So then I can say the data is not consistent. Okay. Now the next dimension is fidelity. Fidelity is sometimes, many times I also struggle to find out the actual meaning of that. It's a means how well does the data mirror to the real world entity. So when that means basically when the data is transmitted from one instance to another instance, we need to measure that does it retains the actual meaning of granularity across systems, right? Because what the data I am getting from for my target systems, it comes through source systems. So if it is transmitted, then it should retain its actual meaning of granularity. Okay, so this is the actual fidelity. Now, two things under management group. These are also the dimensions: verifiability and traceability. Verifiability is basically I am checking the data which is to be demonstrated to be correct to a standard. So that means it based on any standard, the data is has to be checked, right? Like small example in email verification by the system during password reset, right? While I'm going to the password reset, while I'm putting my email ID, so it is verifying first that email ID is correct or not, right? So that is a verifiability. So that means it's checking with a standard. Now the traceability is, it is important while we are getting the source data. So can I trace back to the source systems what I am getting in my target, right? So again, so these are the data quality dimensions and the measuring value I have explained here. But we need to understand that are all these dimensions is applicable, means where I should apply, in the entity, the attribute, or the relationship, because those three are the main area where I should apply those dimensions, right? So I have another demonstrations here, that how we are, what is the measuring capability, what are the dimensions applicable for where, right? Like uniqueness you cannot apply to the attribute level and the relationship level, it's only for the entity level. Okay, so here it's a very specific information about that completeness, it is applicable for all. The data type is valid length, so the integrity part is all applicable for the attribute, and few cases in the relationship level. Okay, and the format uniqueness, that also, format is in the attribute level, but uniqueness is in the entity level. Even resolution, consistency, accuracy, fidelity, everything is in attribute level, but still consistency and the fidelity is in the entity level. So these are the area where while we are measuring our uh, uh, data quality, we are applying these dimensions into entity and attribute, then we can assess our uh, data quality. Okay. So here basically I want to say more things here. So in the data quality assessment, firstly, in our target systems, we need to sit with the data owner or the business basically to understand what the solution I am building, right? What should be the data quality? So in that case, what would be my completeness, timeliness, verifiability, traceability for those data, even for the entity and attribute? Then I go back to my source systems, that is those uh, standards what we are expecting in for the current solutions are uh, uh, supporting enough uh, for my targets, right? So then we are assessing the data, so that is called a data quality assessment. Okay.
Yeah, Rebel, I would like to put a little pause in over here. I think it was a pretty good artifact that gives you a complete picture of all the different dimensions. We have few questions that are coming around on this artifact that you had created for dimensions. So I'll probably read that out, and
Yeah.
then is it okay for having these discussions now? Okay.
Yes, we can take it
Okay.
now.
So the very first question is from Nishu. So she's talking about if the uniqueness is a separate dimension altogether, because under over here we have listed down in inside the conformance dimension. So should uniqueness be treated as a separate dimension?
Yes. So these, these actually this categorization has been done to understand more granular level, but of course, uniqueness is a separate dimensions. Okay, like completeness, integrity, uniqueness, timeliness, resolution, consistency, accuracy, fidelity. These all are dimensions. But here, just grouping that conformance. In the under conformance, these are the granular level of details. So
Sure.
the answer of these questions, yes, the uniqueness is a separate dimensions.
Okay. Howard, you had raised your hand. Do you have any comment on that one? You could. Howard, you had raised your hand.
Yes, yes,
Okay, great.
sorry. I was trying to unmute myself on my new iPad and I was getting lost. Yeah, I think it is a bit frustrating, and I'm not saying where we use different definitions and structures for our dimensions. And I think it's helpful to try to stick to the standardized definition. And I think the DMBOK does a good job in terms of defining it as dimension, concept, metric. And so initially I thought that we were looking at dimension, concept, metric, but we actually there's so many interactions between these dimensions, as Rabiul is actually pointing out here. So it's hard now to understand, am I dealing with a concept? Am I dealing with a dimension? And then what's the metric? So it's helpful just to keep that nice structure of your DQ dimensions.
So what you're trying to highlight is the standard that we have it from the DMBOK is the one that could be referred is that could be used as a reference.
Or what we should be doing is saying, I'm using this definition of DQ dimensions. So it's when we come in here, it's a case of which structure am I using? Because I know the Department of Defense has a different one, and so we've got to understand what definition are you using so I get the right context. So we must almost sort of set the right context for ourselves.
Correct. So I so what you're trying to say over here is the definitions, but that definitions would vary from one organization to another, because the understanding could also vary from what do we want to actually achieve when we say completeness. Even as a very very small very basic set of dimension completeness, some business would say, okay, we would like to just focus on, let's say, phone numbers as one of these examples mentioned. Maybe we would like to only have the completeness part of it, and that could be the only definition for the data quality for them.
You see what I battle with is to measure completeness. It's hard at the top level to give you a unit of measure. So you've sort of got to come down to the concept that you're measuring within uniqueness, because there's several different concepts. So what concept of uniqueness am I measuring, and what is the right way to measure it, and what's the right unit of measure? And because there's so many definitions in the industry, it's just saying, okay, I'm using this definition. This is my dimension. This is my concept. This is my metric. And that's how I put these things together. And if you look at Dan Myers, he's done that DQ dimensions, and he has a report every year of how the different organizations are using the dimensions. And so it's very helpful to have some level of conformance, some level of matching so it's almost the DQ of your dimensions. So, and then just getting it defined within your organization so that everyone understands how you're measuring it. And then certainly when you looking for trust in your data assets, you want to publish a document to say, these are the dimensions that I've validated on my data asset.
Great. So Howard, could you share that in the chat so that it could be used for rest of the audience as well? That'll be a great help.
Okay.
Thanks, Howard, for putting in that.
Yeah. Thanks for your input.
Okay. I have another question from Abhishek. So the question is, apart from these dimensions, there is another dimension called coverage. So what is the difference? So have you come across another dimension called coverage? And if yes, then what is the difference between completeness and coverage, and how do we measure it?
So I have not come across of coverage as a dimensions. So I'm not sure that is that means to completeness or not.
Okay. Uh, so Abhishek, I think that is something that we may need to research, or if at all anyone in the group. I mean, this is more like an interaction between the enthusiasts. So if someone has come across the dimension called coverage, maybe okay. Howard has a comment. So Howard, would you like
Yes,
to
so
few minutes?
so coverage. A lot of the times you see coverage in the DMBOK as a metric. So almost, if you look at your master data domains, what's your, in terms of your golden profile, what's your coverage of the domain? So are you covering, and of the universe, basically saying, okay, what am I looking at? I think it's also related to completeness, but it's about defining what that coverage means. So a coverage accuracy has that, the reflection of the real world. So if I bring that down into a concept and a metric, what percentage of the real world am I measuring, or am I accurate on?
Hmm. Does that help answering your question, Abhishek? Okay, it seems he's on. Okay. So we have one last question from Ravi, and he is asking about what is a major difference between consistency and fidelity.
Yeah. So Ravi, that consistency and fidelity, so consistent means it's a across all the system, it reflects the same information, right? So the I've given an example that if the employee does not in the HRMS system, the employee is a the status is he's leaving or not working now, but in the payroll system that still it is active, right? So that means the same information is it's different in the different systems, so it is not consistent. But in fidelity, it's a it's retaining it's the actual granularity, right? So it's retaining the meaning of the same data, right? Means it's a like low fidelity data. So in terms of fidelity, it's a high and low. But so low fidelity data is any data that was produced by any process that deviates from the real world system of interest. Okay. So there are difference, but I think we need to more understand that fidelity is a it's a mirror of the real world entity. So it's not applicable for all the entities or attributes. If Howard has a better explanation, please, Howard.
Yeah, and I think I'm also, in terms of standardizing, when we look at your fidelity, it's sort of very similar to the term I mentioned in terms of accuracy of the universe. So how well does the data mirror the real world entity? And so that's about, when we look at accuracy, or in terms of the DMBOK, there's two main concepts, which is reflection on the real world and a relationship to the agreed source. And we all know, and we're pretty good at mapping to the data source when we do ETL for our BI systems. If you're not checking that you got all the records from the source, then you're not really doing your job. Whereas the real world is really hard. So, for example, if I do a survey and I only survey 5% of the population, and then I claim that I've done, a survey of, this is a representative of the community that I'm dealing with, well, then I've done a really bad job in terms of presenting that. So I think in fidelity, in terms of what your definition here is have I collected all all the data or just little parts of the data, little attributes of the element. And we do this in the world, in the central banks, when we survey the banks. What was our response? Did we get 10 out of 100 people back? And then have we made decisions on 10 people's feedback, or how are we making? So we got really 10%, and then we're saying that 1% of 10% is equal to this, and we're claiming that we've got a lot better fidelity as you're presenting here, but we're not really at that level. But the hard part is, what is the universe? So your first metric is saying, give me the universe count, and then tell me what is the count that I've got and what segmentation I have within the universe. I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Ravi, would that answer your question? Does it help?
Yeah, it is partly Hemant, but probably I need to explore a bit more to understand it better from my side as well.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, we have a lot of terminology that is being used. Sometimes they all converge onto similar concepts. So by the end of the day, the intention is to actually solve the business problems. That is wherein it should highlight to. So that's great. Yeah. Okay.
What is that page that you look
This
at?
one here, 460.
So is
Yeah.
there any other
Yeah.
questions?
No, I think Rabiul, that's all what we have. You can proceed with the rest of the slides. We have 10 minutes, yes, but then I think we can manage.
Okay. Yeah.
And if you could put that in the presentation mode. Yeah.
So now we will talk about the improvement cycle. Okay. So how we are.
Rebel, if you could put that in presentation mode, so that, yeah, that's nice. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So in the DM walk, it's very precisely, gives that improvement life cycle, that Deming cycle, right? Which is plan, do, act, and plan, do, check, and act. Okay. So in the there are some steps in this Deming cycle or steward chart, where in the DM walk it is mentioned. So we need to plan for the improvement of our data quality, what we have assessed based on our data quality dimensions. So in the plan, so obviously in this cycle, 4 steps, and under each step there are various activities we need to perform as a team. Like for the plan phase, that we need to assess the scope, impact, and priority the issues, right? And based on it should be based on the solid root cause of the issues. And also we need to plan for any evaluation for the alternate to address them, right? And the second one, that do this step also, we need to meet the data owners and business owners, show the incorrect data to them, check the requirement which was implemented correctly or not. So these are the steps we follow, right? In this do and check also, we have active monitoring of the quality data. We need to check that there are some threshold value, we are meeting that threshold value or not, right? Because while in the check steps, so we need to agree with the business that what should be the threshold value of this completeness or the timeliness, so that I should proceed with for the optimum working for the solution. So those are the points we need to check for these steps in the improvement plan. Majorly or primarily, it happened like that. While we apply the data dimensions and we assess the data quality, we have a list of data quality issues, right? With the recommended, means at least in the plan phase, we would have a recommendation, right, to the business data owner. So while we have a list of data quality issues, we need to we need to sit with the right people from the right team. In obviously in any organizations, we have a data quality and data governance team. So we need to sit with them, so the actual, what is the actual data having the quality issues, what are the percentage of the whole data have the problem, right? And we need to provide the actual or exact data issues to present them, so that they will understand and they will think through and plan for the improvement. Because the data is coming from the lot of source systems, uh, and I am working in some X project. I need this data, but I cannot correct all those things. So there should be, if I need to say that those specific data needs to be corrected to work the optimal solution, then the data owner, they will take the action. They will go. They will instruct the source systems that how we can improve the data, how we can correct the data. So one thing is that those correction may not happen in one day, 1 month, right? So some data quality issues last means continues over, the improvement plan continues for a long 1 year or 2 years, right? So depends on the data quality issues. So those are the things we need to the data owners should take the action, how they will put this improvement plan on their own, right? So these are the various steps. Typically, an organization take the steps or the cycle here mentioned for the improvement plan. Here, quickly, I have given some metrics, right? Like these are the metrics which is also present in the DM box, very nicely presented. That uh, completeness, right? So what are the means acceptable or the threshold value I told, right? So if some businessmen it says that the below 80% of this population is not acceptable, right? So these are the things or the indicator we need to identify and move forward. So these are a few examples, but it have in the DM box, okay? Like for
Uh,
uniqueness.
yeah,
Yes.
Rabul, I have one question from the audience. It's referencing to the the circle, plan, check, do, act, and so. Um, it's question from Nishu. It,
Yes,
when you were
yes.
mentioning about the thresholds, who should be the one actually specifying the thresholds? Is it the data owners who own it, or the consumers for which it is meant, or basically the
This
end
is,
users?
yeah, this is the business team basically, or the product owner or the solution owner, right? So who owns the product or who owns the solution from the business side, he will means we need to sit with them, and he will actually set the threshold value.
Okay, is is that because of the reason that you could have several consumers of data, and everyone, if we consider the end users, then everyone would have their own thresholds. So we would like to sync it up and just have a data owner define the thresholds. Is that one of the reason?
See, if we reach to, we cannot make it through discuss with the end users, right? Because end users does not have the whole picture or whole understanding. Maybe he's working on some small area, but the business owner or the product owner, solution owner, who knows that how it impacts my business for this data quality issues, right? So that will come from the business team. Business team is the business. I am talking about the product owner or the solution owner from the business side. But obviously, we need to involve or engage the data owner as well.
Okay, and there is also a comment from Ravi that most of these metrics are based on the business rules, and all these business rules come from a product owner, so they need to be fixed the threshold. So that's a comment from Ravi on that one.
Yeah,
uh,
right. Yeah.
yeah. So how would I know that you have raised your hand? In the paucity of time, I would like to have a completion and then probably take the next set in the Q&A session. Hope that is okay. Yes, Prashant, we will consider these questions after the I think we are only few slides left, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
we can take it.
Yeah. Only the last slide, basically, Hemant and
Okay.
all. So, so if we talks about any data quality framework, so that frame there are standard. There are no such standard, but we can say, but it's a generic data quality framework. But it depends on your organizations how you frame your data quality framework, right? So that's up to up to you, or up to the organization how they are framing their data quality framework, right? So it's basically it's a generic like data. Some I will have some quality dimensions. I have some elements. I have indicators, and based on that, the Deming cycle, what I have told, right? So those are the improvement plan, and the dimensions what we have discussed. Based on those dimensions, everything will be put together in a framework, and we can build as per our needs.
Okay.
So you can take it,
Great.
as your own organizations.
Thank you. And I think we have this one last question from Prashant. Uh, Based on his understanding, the business rules comes from consumers. Do you have any comment on that one? It's with respect to the discussion that came from the thresholds.
Yeah, sorry, can you please repeat, Hemant, the
Uh,
question?
it's a question from Prashant. In my understanding, business rules comes from consumers.
See, of course, the consumers, but that's why I'm saying it's a
Hmm.
business team,
Yeah.
right? So consumers is on the
Yeah.
team, but it should come from the business owner or the
Yeah.
data, means product owner.
Great. I would. Howard is pretty eager to share his opinion. Howard, please unmute yourself and then share.
Yeah, I think it is a tricky one. What I like to define is because data quality is fit for purpose for the consumers, it's a little bit hard for the owners to define it because they own the data, right? They're typically not the consumers. So what I do agree with is that the owners they should be interviewing the consumers to get the data quality expectations of their data. So each data citizen who consumes the data and makes decisions that the owner provides data to, especially when you talk about sharing, you should be asking, what are your data quality expectations? And then they are responsible and accountable for holding that data to that quality level.
Yep. So what we understand is, we even though the product owner has to interview the end users, because there could be several end users, and all these end users could have a conflicting set of requirements as well. So it
Correct.
boils down to the product owner who actually has to have a common denominator of what are all the data quality metrics that we could apply, and then implement that in the system. Yes, it
So
has to be driven by the end users, and that's what the product owner would define. Is
So
that?
what I think you guys are 100% correct. There's so many different areas, but for example, when I set up a data sharing agreement
Mm.
between the owner and a department, I need to ensure that I deliver the data to them according to that data quality expectation. So as we go through sharing agreements and we define the interaction of data, we want to ensure that we deliver data to those consumers in the right way.
Great. Good. I think we have overshoot the time. That also means that we had a good round of discussions. We had a different set of opinions, and yes, these sessions are actually meant for that, so that we can share our knowledge, and then see what is happening in their respective organization. So this was one of the first initiative, and we would love to hear the feedback on the group that we have on WhatsApp and the members group. And this is also something, uh, as an opportunity for all the members to share their knowledge, to to discuss things which are which are a bit unclear. I mean, there are a lot of things in data governance that we see are a bit fuzzy in nature. They're very ambiguous in nature. They're not defined to an extent. Whenever we talk about a technology, they are pretty much defined. So this one, the even for the data quality or the other things, they're pretty ambiguous in nature. So please, if you have any topic in your mind, if at all you have something that you would like to share, do let us know, and then let's use this platform to share it. Uh,
Yes, yes. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Rebel, for your time on constructing this presentation, and thank you each and every one of you to share your opinions, bring up nice questions, and sharing your comments. Thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. And special thanks to Howard for the presence, Howard. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. That was fantastic. Well done. Excellent.
Yeah,
Great.
Thanks,
thank you.
everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks all.
Do we
Hemant,
have?
please
Yeah,
stop the recording.
yeah. I have stopped the recording, but then I'm not sure if I can end the call. Just let me.